Scorpio. This week tears through illusion fast enough that even you may feel emotionally unprepared for how quickly the truth arrives. And the truth arrives through people. Mercury enters Gemini and immediately conjuncts Uranus, activating your relationships, emotional entanglements, power dynamics, contracts, trust issues, and psychological vulnerabilities. A conversation changes everything. Someone reveals their real intentions, or maybe they simply stop hiding what was already visible beneath the surface. Either way, this week destroys ambiguity. And for you, that's both liberating and painful. Because part of you has sensed emotional instability for a while now. You've been reading the energy beneath people's behavior, watching inconsistencies, noticing emotional gaps between what people say and what they actually sustain. This week confirms what your intuition already suspected, especially around May 19th, when Mercury trines Pluto, your modern ruler, while Venus enters Cancer. Emotional honesty becomes unavoidable. Someone may confess fear, desire, regret, avoidance, or you may finally admit to yourself that a connection has become emotionally unsustainable, even if the chemistry still exists. That realization cuts deep, because Scorpio rarely lets go emotionally halfway. But Mars entering Taurus this week also activates your relationship axis directly, creating confrontation where passivity once existed. People become more stubborn. Emotional negotiations harden. If resentment has been quietly building beneath the surface, it surfaces now. Do not weaponize silence this week. Say what is true. Especially because somewhere around the middle of the week, you may experience an emotional trigger that reveals unresolved pain you thought you had already mastered. A memory, a comparison, a feeling of abandonment, or the realization that you've been emotionally self-protecting so intensely that intimacy itself has started feeling dangerous. That's the deeper transformation unfolding here. Not the relationship itself, your relationship to vulnerability. The Sun enters Gemini later in the week and immediately conjuncts Uranus, bringing sudden revelations around intimacy, trust, money, emotional dependency, or psychological exposure. A truth surfaces abruptly. A dynamic shifts overnight. Someone behaves unpredictably. And honestly, some masks finally fall off. That's necessary. Because Venus square Neptune later in the week makes emotional fantasy dangerous. You may want to believe someone's potential instead of their actual behavior. Or nostalgia may soften your memory of something your nervous system once recognized as harmful. Do not betray your own instincts to preserve emotional fantasy. You already know better. And Scorpio, there's one more thing you need to hear this week. You are not difficult to love because you require emotional depth. You are difficult to manipulate because you eventually see through performance. That is not a flaw. That is survival wisdom. By the weekend, something becomes emotionally undeniable. You stop negotiating with confusion. You stop begging reality to become different than what it has already shown itself to be. And the moment you stop resisting the truth, your power comes back immediately.
Scorpio, your tarot card is the Six of Swords. This is transition energy, not dramatic escape, not emotional collapse, movement. The Six of Swords appears when your spirit begins quietly leaving behind emotional territory that no longer feels safe, healthy, or sustainable. Part of you may still feel emotionally attached to the past this week, but internally, you already know something has shifted permanently. There's grief in this card, but there is also relief. A difficult conversation, emotional realization, or internal breakthrough may help you understand that peace is now more important than emotional intensity. That realization changes your decisions. This card also favors emotional distance from chaos. You do not need to immediately solve every emotional conflict this week. Some situations improve simply because you stop standing in the storm long enough to absorb all the damage. The Six of Swords reminds you that healing sometimes looks like leaving emotional turbulence behind, without needing everyone else to agree with your reasons.
Scorpio, you get hexagram 47, lake over water, oppression. This is a heavy but transformative hexagram. Oppression appears when emotional pressure has accumulated quietly for too long. Exhaustion, emotional restraint, unspoken grief, carrying pain internally while appearing composed externally. And Scorpio, this week asks you to stop surviving in silence. There is something emotionally unsustainable in your life that your soul already recognizes clearly. A relationship dynamic, a burden, a pattern of emotional self-protection that once kept you safe, but now keeps you isolated. The deeper lesson here is not suffering, it is honesty. Hexagram 47 teaches that emotional liberation begins the moment you stop pretending your spirit is unaffected by what has been hurting it repeatedly. You do not need to collapse publicly, but you do need to stop abandoning yourself privately. That is where the healing begins.
Scorpio, your rune is Perthro. Perthro is the rune of mystery, hidden truths, fate, revelation, and what emerges from the unseen. This is an extremely powerful rune for you this week. Something concealed begins surfacing now, not necessarily dramatically, quietly, through intuition, coincidence, emotional tension, or information arriving unexpectedly. Perthro often appears when the universe is revealing what was previously obscured beneath uncertainty. There is also strong psychological transformation here. You may suddenly recognize a hidden emotional pattern operating inside yourself. Fear of abandonment, emotional hypervigilance, difficulty trusting stability, and once recognized, the pattern loses some of its unconscious control. That is profound progress. Perthro reminds you that not all uncertainty is danger. Some mysteries exist because truth unfolds in layers your spirit must be ready to receive. And this week, you are becoming ready.
This week exposed what can no longer survive behind illusion. Some of you saw through emotional inconsistency. Some of you recognized exhaustion you've been disguising as resilience. And some of you finally stopped negotiating with truths your intuition already understood months ago. That clarity matters. If this reading resonated, leave a comment telling me what you finally stopped denying this week. I read more of your stories than you probably realize. And watch your rising sign too. Your rising sign often reveals the deeper transformation happening underneath the visible events. Protect your energy carefully this week. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your spirit.